I think without Bitcoin, people are fucked. Like, there's no other way.
The only way that you can get out of that rat race, the only way that I've found out to do it is through Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I used to be in that rat race.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here with a crazy net worth just from buying Bitcoin at the lows. 2020 showed me that they can try and put a lot of controls on you. And I just want freedom of choice in life. And that's, since I've been in Bitcoin, I've got the freedom to come and hang out with you for, well, just be here for a week off and just be like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm free.
I believe anyone now living on the fiat system is a modern day slave, and they're in the rat race. And even if they have millions of dollars in the bank, they're still poor if they don't have Bitcoin. Fuck, mate. What a crazy year. Like 2024 with Bitcoin was just remarkable, I think, in every single way. Like, I don't know about you, but I know you were here since the start and for a long time, like stacking sats, staying humble. And for someone that stacks sats harder than anyone I know, like the proof of work that you've been putting in, Rory, is absolutely insane. I want to dive into this conversation, dive into everything that's led up to this historic day. Trump has just been elected. He made absolutely no mention of Bitcoin in his speech. We can see that the price has come down from the highs of about 109,000. We had a high yesterday, like 174,000 last night here in Australia, which is scary. I think like in the last 30 days, we've lost 2% against the US dollar, which is just like dropping. But like, what are some of the things from last year that were really outstanding?
ETFs probably. That's probably the biggest thing about last year, was the biggest thing. But Trump getting in again was awesome up until he released his shitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was having a great time until he released Trump coin. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
What is it? Like, World Liberty Finance is the name of the organization. I think they hold 80% of the supply. They, I think in their first 24 hours, roughly, I'm sure I'm getting the dates wrong, but they sold their token, bought like $47 million of Ethereum. And it looks like now they're converting that into wrapped Bitcoin. So there's some type of game plan going on. Like, what do you reckon his plan is? Is he just being like a fucking degen, man?
It seems that way. It seems like it's just going to be wild, wild west.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people are out there wanting Gary Gensler back to curb it, which, you know.
Maybe it's a good idea.
I can't believe it. I just think it's so stupid. When I saw it, I went, no, I thought his account had been hacked and it was just going to be a cash grab. I don't know. No words. Yeah. No words. Who releases a shitcoin on Solana?
Yeah. The day before they become the 49th president of the United States, it's pretty crazy. And then to
49th, 47th?
47th, maybe. 47th, 45th, 47th.
I don't know.
There we go. I don't know. We're over here in Australia.
What Prime Minister are we up to?
Yeah. Here.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man. It's like the state of politics here in Australia, beyond a joke. Like, we can sit here and we can laugh. You know, they've got the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, with Vivek and RFK and Elon Musk, and it sounds like we're going to Mars in the next decade. But it's I think you've probably hit the nail on the head. Wild, wild west. It'll be interesting what happens, like with the accounting with SARB 121, if that gets pulled back. If Trump makes any executive orders, have not seen anything about him freeing Ross. Day one, that's really the only promise I wanted to see.
It's the only promise I wanted him to keep, and he kept it on day one. It wasn't day zero, it was day one.
Fulfilled, because Bitcoin's going to do Bitcoin things, which is crazy. Like, what do you reckon's in store now? So Trump launched a shitcoin. They've started buying Ethereum and they've started converting that into wrapped Bitcoin. And then his wife has launched her own shitcoin. It's degen season, man.
It's degrading the whole market.
Yeah.
I no words, man. It's anger. No, not even anger. It's just like pity
That's ridiculous.
shock. That's happened.
It's to be like right on the cusp of like the world's greatest monetary revolution for Trump to get. And yes, he got like a lot of shitcoin funding, but predominantly is run like on a pro Bitcoin stance. It'll be
not really, because even when he was at the Bitcoin conference, he was talking about crypto.
Yeah, he's been trained. It'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, I guess my only advice for people, I understand people are going to shitcoin and it's your money, it's your choice, but probably predominantly study Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's like the digital gold store of value. Like talking about that, you recommended for me to read Hijacking Bitcoin. Interesting book. Like I've only really just started over my time off over the holidays. And what I really found kind of interesting, I don't disagree, that Bitcoin has been hijacked, that it used to really be pushed like as a peer-to-peer electronic form of cash, and then the narrative around it has changed into a store of value. You articulated yesterday, we were walking up at the beach, like really, really well, but like how has Bitcoin's narrative shifted, and what's that mean for us, like where we are now? And
I wasn't around for when it was all kicking off, but just using Bitcoin like we did today, using the Lightning Network, man, it's so cool.
Yeah.
The problem there is it's not real Bitcoin. It's the second layer on top of it, which works really well. But what Roger Ver talks about is having to rely on these custodial second layers protocols to transact, whereas he's talking about Bitcoins used to be you'd just transact on the main chain, and now the fees are too high. So it's interesting when he talks about the community weren't able to have those discussions on the platforms, like the Bitcoin Reddit forum. Anybody that mentioned anything against the small blockers was removed. And coming in to Bitcoin in 2022 when I did, and just from 2020, knowing all the censorship that happened, if that happened in Bitcoin, it makes me feel really disheartened about the whole thing. And then, we only get to see one side as the small blockers, which I can argue for running my own node and having a say in the network and having control of all the rules as well and the consensus mechanism. I can argue for that too, but then there's always three sides to every story. You need to see your side, their side, and the truth. And we never really get on Bitcoin Twitter and stuff. We never really get to see the big blockers side, and we don't get to see what really happened because history is written by the victors. Yeah. So we only get to see the small blockers side, and it's a really interesting book. And the other thing is Roger Ver he didn't create Bitcoin Cash. He doesn't promote it. He's just saying that this more lines up with the ethos of what Bitcoin used to be. Yeah. But I wasn't around, so I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know what it used to be.
and like I've only really read a small section of the book, and he does talk about that. What I really appreciate is that Roger says, like, you may still like Bitcoin that we call Bitcoin now, like Bitcoin Core. But like, just know these things and just like hear the side of the story. And I really appreciate having an open mind and thinking, okay, yes, it used to be like that, but like, what's the reality of the situation? The reality of the situation is the world has chosen Bitcoin. Like it's at 102, nearly 103,000.
We've chosen Bitcoin.
Like everyone
we could have chosen Melania coin.
We could have, or we could have chose Bitcoin Cash, and the world hasn't. And maybe it would have been nicer if it was all on the base chain and they learned to be able to scale and stuff. But like whether good or bad, right or wrong, it doesn't really matter. Like we are here now. So like with the scaling solutions and stuff, we are going to get to a point where it's like insanely expensive to be able to spend on core.
Well, it's only going to be expensive in terms of dollars. Fiat to Bitcoin, because I can't imagine that the fees per VByte are going to be extraordinary. There is sometimes when the ordinals kick in and it all goes through the roof, but most of the time you can sort of pick that. So that's not too much of an issue. When they say it's going to be really expensive, it's only going to be expensive as fiat terms. Yeah. Sometimes the VBytes go up. That's another thing, but there might be a way that you can pick your certain days. There's lots of stuff, and it's above my pay grade. I don't.
Yeah,
I'm not smart enough to have those conversations.
We're probably, I think, going to find solutions when we get up against that. Like, I really reckon it's going to become a major issue when the block reward is less than like 1 Bitcoin, in the next 2 cycles. I think we've probably got quite a while, and the Bitcoin community is so smart, and there is Lightning and there is Liquid, and they are building these scaling solutions. And yes, from Roger Ver's point of view, maybe it would have been nicer if it was all on the base chain, but that hasn't happened. So we are building these second layers, and these second layers work amazing. You're kind enough to look after their house while we're gone, and you're just going around town being like, hey, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept Bitcoin? And they're like, no. You're like, yes, you do. Even at this morning at the gym, Dan, do you accept Bitcoin? No. Yes, you accept Bitcoin. He's like, no, we didn't have the time to be able to do it. But then we went to the coffee shop, paid Nate, you've been going to the Whole Foods, things like that.
Really quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I've teamed up with the Bitcoin Way. This is the professional Bitcoin IT team. They can help you master your Bitcoin self-custody. Safetina Moose, the author of the Bitcoin Standard, also recommends this professional Bitcoin IT cybersecurity team. Their guys are absolutely amazing. They can help you set up a node, protect your stack, get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Make sure that you are following best practices. Number one, that it's air-gapped. If you don't know what that means, I've put their details below for you. If you're worried about SIM swaps, reach out to the Bitcoin Way. Maybe you just want to know that you are doing the best thing. You're doing all the little tricks within your device to be able to make sure nobody can ever get into your Bitcoin, have any access. If you've got any queries about connecting to public USB and charging points, connecting to rogue Wi-Fi access points or malware-infected USB cables and flash drives, reach out to the Bitcoin cybersecurity team, the Bitcoin Way. Free 30-minute call. They are at the top of the description.
And it's instant. There's really no problem. But going back to your point earlier, do you think there is a problem that it's not on the base chain, that it is the second layer and it's more a pegged or wrapped token? It's not really, but to be able to phrase it, to be able to see it like that, that's the way that it's operating.
Yeah, it does annoy me a little bit. It does annoy me a little bit that I can't receive straight Bitcoin without it costing a little bit. If you use Sparrow, you can sort of choose your fees and you can navigate it that way. It irks me a little bit. But what all these other shitcoins and everything get, they're actually taking away developers from working on the Bitcoin core.
Yeah.
So, we might have solutions to these problems in the future, but we don't have anybody working on it. Well, we do, but we don't have enough people working on it. If we didn't have all these other shit coins, all the developers that are building on all that other stuff, all those other chains could be working for the solutions for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So and it just seems like we're taking a long time to get to solutions, when if we got rid of everything, all the shit, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen now that Trump is killing it. Brutal. But so if we got rid of all of that, then all of those people who are working on all those other chains, they would be working on the core chain. And then we could fix all these other issues or come up with solutions for this.
Yeah. So one of the things, and I think what would be really helpful for everyone watching, is you're the best networker that I've ever met. It's every conference we go to, or anytime we're out anywhere, you're just networking, you're creating conversation, Discord with people, you're really bringing them in and bringing them into Bitcoin in such an amazing way. To be able to change our life, from where we are now to where we are going to be in the next 5 years, I strongly believe, and I think this Jim Rohn, it's the books you read and the people that you meet, and you're just a master at meeting people. How do you go about doing that? It seems like you have no shyness whatsoever. I'll go up to people and I feel a little bit awkward or something. You're do you accept Bitcoin? No. Well, you're going to accept Bitcoin. Hear everything about it, and you're going to get orange pilled before I leave. And there's no fear, there's no shame or whatever. But I think those skills can be transferable into so many areas. Maybe do you have a couple of takeaways, or how do you approach situations and people like that?
That's it. It's probably a skill that I lacked when I was in school, and then I learned during my 20s how to achieve that, and it was just from pure grinding out and trying to have social interactions. So I wasn't that autistic, retarded kid running around putting his foot in it. But even just this, mate, we didn't know each other last year.
Yeah.
We met on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And now I'm sitting here, I was like looking after your house, looking after your dogs, eating your food.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's a surreal experience having this. Like, even when we first caught up in Sydney for Bitcoin Alive, man, I was like, you know, you're so tall. I didn't realize you were like 7 foot.
Yeah.
I had no idea, because I see you on TV, like see you on the screen and everything.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, head frame. And then I see you in person, I was like, that can't be sure.
Yeah.
It's like, no way. Towering over me. And then when we caught up for Cheat Code down in Sydney again, then you came up and you grabbed me from behind.
Yeah.
And you gave me a big bear hug. I was like, what the fuck's going on here?
It was just,
I'm getting kicked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. But no, the whole networking thing is just, man, I love meeting people.
Yeah.
I like talking and finding out people's stories. That's the other thing. A lot of people talk about, or there's, what is it? Is it Brian Tracy or something talks about people will wait for their turn to talk. They won't listen with the intent to actually listen to the person. They're just waiting for their time to say whatever they're thinking. And they're not actually listening. They're not actively listening to the person they're communicating with. I genuinely want to know what people do. Ever since I was a kid, I'd be, you know, your mum would be driving around. I'd be looking out the window and I'd be like, somebody else in that car has their own life. Like, I'm going out to whatever I was doing with mum, going to the beach or going shopping or with dad or whatever. And I'm like, I'm doing what I'm doing and we're doing what we're doing. But this person who's so focused on the road, and that's another thing I've noticed, they don't look out the windows. Most people don't look in other cars.
Yeah.
I'm always looking in other cars, seeing, oh, that person's on their phone, that person's doing their makeup, that person's, you know, all sorts of things.
Yeah, screaming at the kids.
Yeah, screaming at the kids. And you're like, but they've got their own life. And I always wanted to know, like, what they were doing. It was always just a curiosity. So I think that helps with the networking aspect, because I genuinely interested about what people are doing with their life.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes across as a bit of a federal agent sometimes when I ask a bunch of questions. I'm like, what are you about that? How does that happen?
Yeah.
I don't understand. What made you do that? Because I want to understand why people do why people make the decisions that they make as well.
Yeah.
When I think, gosh, just buzzing around, so ruining all of the audio. Yeah, it's just a curiosity of, you know, and generally just want to understand where people are at, why they think the things that they think, and how they come to conclusions. And I think when I first got into the Bitcoin community, they were so accepting, even though I was like, why'd you get into Bitcoin? You're old. I don't understand. I thought Bitcoin was like a young person's thing. Like, I don't understand. Why did you see it? Did you see it as a technology thing? You're in tech. Did you see it as a monetary policy thing? Did you see it as, I just don't understand, because I don't understand why I did it.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to control me.
Yeah.
That's why I got into Bitcoin. 2020 showed me that they can try and put a lot of controls on you. And I just want freedom of choice in life. And that's, since I've been in Bitcoin, I've got the freedom to come and hang out with you just be here for a week off and just be like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm free.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, it's given me the freedom just to choose what I want to do. And, you know, and I like understanding why people choose their things. Yeah. I think that's and then that's just the biggest motivator. And the networking, I'm just like, just having fun.
I want to dive into the freedom aspect, because, like, in the words Nico Moran, and probably paraphrasing a little bit, Bitcoin's the separation of money from state. And, like, the first time I heard that, I'm like, bang on, like, brother, I completely agree with that. And it's technology to allow you to be a free, sovereign individual. And it's really the only technology possible in a digital economy. If Bitcoin didn't exist, like, yes, the next best option is gold, but that only really works peer-to-peer on a small community, or maybe statewide, but it doesn't really work like on a global scale as much to be able to be free, or just to be able to get up and go. Like, if something goes wrong in this country, it's nice just to be able to move, go boating per se. But before we do get into that, when you're, like, meeting people and you're generally interested in them, you're like, willing to listen and to be able to learn from them. What do you then do with that information? You're just curious, or like when you hear someone did something, then you'll integrate into your life and use that to be able to move forward, or?
I have a really good memory, and
Yeah, insane. It's crazy.
When people tell me about their interests or tell me what they're working on, I'll remember that because I'm actively listening. I'm sitting there trying to understand what they're doing in their life because it's a genuine curiosity. But then I'll go and talk to somebody else, and then I'll remember what this other person did while someone else is telling me something, and I'll go, oh, that made, and I'll like link it up, and I'll go, maybe that person can help this person. And then, I don't know. It's like, I think it's a genuine want to see people succeed.
Yeah.
So I like putting people in contact with being like, this person's working on this person's working on this. Those two things could work in tandem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? Does that guy know you?
Yeah.
I think it's just because I got that memory that I can remember what that other person said. And it might be just because I'm listening as well. It might not just be have a good memory, but it's because I'm actually listening to what they're saying and not just waiting for my turn to tell them what I'm doing in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll wait until someone's interested, and if they're asked, then I'll tell them. But I'm genuinely interested in what they're doing, and then I'll just remember it. And then when someone else tell me something, I'm like, that'll probably work. And then it's just how that works.
Yeah, that's like, I asked the question pretty rubbish way, really, but you answered, and that's sort of where I was getting at, is when you're meeting people, and what I've noticed is you'll be like, oh, this person has that amount of knowledge, and instead of you using it to benefit yourself directly, you'll connect that person with another person, those two people meeting, and you like all the time just want the best for people, like all the time. You're just such a genuinely good person with integrity, and I think like in general in society that's missing so much. Do you think that's something that maybe already came naturally to you, but with Bitcoin, like, it's accelerating, and you've become, or you're using those tools for something maybe with a little bit more purpose?
The first part is it didn't come naturally. I saw karma in my life. Not happen to me personally. Sometimes it happened to me, but not often did it happen to me. But I saw people who did wrong things. I saw them later in life, and then I was like, oh, karma hit you hard.
Yeah.
So then I recognized, instead of me having to make those mistakes and realize karma's real, which it did happen sometimes, but I realized and I recognized very quickly that if you don't live your life as a giving out good intentions, you'll get some shit.
Yeah.
But in saying that, some people do shit all the time and they have great lives, and you're like, well, that doesn't work out. But I saw personally with people that I knew when I was younger that some of their actions, I was like, it directly correlated to their outcomes 5, 6 years, 10 years down the track. And I'm like, wow, far out. That's nothing to be fucked with. So I don't want to. So I was like, if I always just put out good, and then it just happens to be good. But yes, it has actually exponentially increased since being in Bitcoin. It's exploded, and I think that comes down to the people who are in Bitcoin, because the people that are in Bitcoin are highly regarded. I'm the stupidest person in every single room I walk into when I go to all these different Bitcoin meetups and everything. I'm the dumbest person. I'm just a bartender. I can't do shit. Then I'm talking to these people who have crazy businesses. They've built insane things. They'll pull stuff up on computers that I'm like, and I'm lucky to turn the thing on.
Yeah.
Like it's insane what some of these people can do. And they're all happy to talk. And they all want to talk about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They all want to talk about, they don't want to talk about whatever the Susie the slut at work did, and at the Christmas party. There's none of that. It's all about, how do we fix that problem? How do we work out building a spark in vacuum space? And not that I'm doing any justice, like Daz B talks about, how do we take care of the I'm brutally butcher this, the energy grid's ebbs and flows. by putting massive Bitcoin miners in there to take up the energy so it keeps it level. And I'm like, fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. And he's just a Sparky. Well, I don't know if he's just a Sparky.
But he's maybe just.
I don't know if he's just a Sparky, but he's
pretty high up in the biggest energy retailer in Australia.
But he is a Sparky. Like I think that's where he started. Like he was 100%. A Sparky, and then I'm like, and you go to these different events, and then you have these wonderful people that are very welcoming and inviting, and I think that contributes to the ethos of what Bitcoin is, and everybody's just so there's no drama really that I've noticed. There might be, but just I'm like the opposite of a.
I think the only drama is if someone comes in like with a shitcoin mentality.
Oh yeah.
That's really where it springs from, and like yes, there's a bit of nuance with ordinals and shitcoins on Bitcoins and stuff, but like overall, I think, like you're saying, Bitcoin is a pretty accepting, and they just want the best for people. And like when I had Eric Dale on, he went to Bitcoin because he wanted to live intentionally. And like I've really noticed that, and something you were saying before is you went to Bitcoin because you wanted to be free of control. Like I believe anyone now living on the fiat system is a modern day slave, and they're in the rat race. And even if they have millions of dollars in the bank, they're still poor if they don't have Bitcoin. And maybe not today and maybe not tomorrow, but like in the next 5 to 10 years, like with Lawrence Lapada's book that's coming out, The Big Print, like I strongly urge everyone to read it the second it comes out. It's so incredible. It's the most important book, I think, for people that haven't gone into Bitcoin yet to get into Bitcoin. But with everything that could potentially happen, say we just get another GFC, global financial crisis, I see Bitcoin as the only way to be able to keep your head above like water. You're saying you want to be able to stay free from control. How's Bitcoin allow you to exit the matrix or stay out of the rat race or not be like a modern day slave for you?
If policies change and I don't agree with those policies, then I can be penalized or I can be stopped doing certain things, stopped spending my money. As an example, I've got a friend who I've just orange pilled, and he's trying to get just $500 because he doesn't have much money. But I'm like, just start stacking, bro. Just start stacking. Trust me. And don't verify. I'm like, just start putting some money in. The bank.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah. Trust me. Don't verify.
Study Bitcoin.
Yeah, tough love sometimes. But I'm like, dude, just send it across. Anyway, he sent it across. Didn't turn up. Did the pay ID system, so it should have gone through straight away. No chance. And I'm like, bank's holding it, bro. Guess what bank he's with?
Commonwealth.
Yeah, which bank? And I go, ring him.
They're fucked.
I go, ring him. He goes, oh, yeah. He said, oh, what am I going to do? I was like, just call him, dude. Tell him to release your money. Because all it is they're just put it on hold. ANZ did the same thing to me, and I was going nuts, bro. Still nuts. It's crazy, the TradFi system, on how slow it is.
Yeah.
And people are like, Bitcoin's so slow. I'm like,
4 days later and you're still calling them, we can release in 3 days. Like, fuck you. Jesus Christ. Come on, like let's go. Bitcoin's only gone up 10 grand since I moved it originally. Instantly. Like come on.
Yeah, it's brutal, dude.
It's worked in my favour a couple of times though, when they hold the money, and you're like, I can release it, but I'm still pissed off at them.
It's my money. It's your money.
I move it when I want to move it. I actually move it as soon as it basically comes into the account to be able to get it out straight away. And I don't care whether it's up, down, or sideways at this stage. Sorry to cut off.
Yeah, that's right, man. Yeah. Sort of making a good point now. And he was just having struggles, and that right there is that's not your money.
Yeah.
72 hours to get his money to come through, even though he did pay ID. But if he pay ID'd me $500, I'd have it straight away. Then I could buy it and send it to him, but then the bank goes, "Oh,
what's happening here?
You've bought $500 worth of Bitcoin." Yeah. Oh, it wasn't mine. No, it was old mates.
Yeah.
And it's and that hurts me a little bit, not getting KYC free Bitcoin.
Yeah.
but you get a better spread. And at the end of the day, with all this Trump bullshit with the meme coins, maybe that will have a good outcome where there won't be any capital gains taxes. There might be there might be a situation where you won't have to pay tax on it. I'm fingers crossed.
Yeah, like fingers crossed. Whatever happens in the US won't necessarily happen here, but it does put pressure on the Australian economy as well.
And having Bitcoin, if you wanted to go to the US, you could just go.
Yeah.
You don't have to try and sell your house in 3 months, put it on the market, wait for someone to buy it, have the real estate agent go, well, you should probably lower your house price a little bit because it's probably, you get more interest. Yeah. You're like, dude, I want to sell it for what I want to sell it for so I can cover everything. But then their job is to make the sale, so their job is to try and get a higher price, but also to get you to sell it for a lower price so they can flip it quick. Yeah, so it's just the whole traditional system is annoying. Yeah, and very annoying. And I only really noticed it 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people woke up in 2020. Just the one thing on the tax, like if the America goes no capital gains and an Australian goes over there, you are still liable for Australian tax. Just talk to the financial expert for sure. But there are ways, and get a second passport, like channel partner, the Bitcoin Way, link below. They can help you get a second passport, which may be an option, like if things go pretty bad. Now, like going so far deep down the rabbit hole, I've tried to read nearly every single Bitcoin book, and I know you've read a lot of Bitcoin books, and like the amount of time that we spend on Bitcoin X and stuff, I've been off it for like the last 7 to 8 days or something, and it's been fucking amazing. Like the place is a cesspit, it's toxic as fuck. Dopamine overload mixed in like with the greatest conversations and the best signal that I've ever had in my life, in an online environment. There's like both of it, the dichotomy. It's like so far apart. But it has been nice going off there. But like diving down into it, what do you think happens with fiat? Because like we're so tapped in that we can see that the Australian dollar is just like dramatically losing value against the US dollar. But we know that the US dollar's lost like 40% of its value over the last 4 years as well. And then compared to them, we've lost 25%. I think maybe those numbers are out a little bit. Fact check me in the comments. It's cool. But like either way, I think we're absolutely fucked. And I think without Bitcoin, people are fucked. Like there's no other way. And I think there's going to be major poverty and hardship and like the homelessness and addiction and the mental health crisis that we have in Australia, the housing crisis that we have here, the inflation, the cost of food, like everything. And this sounds like fucking bad and very terrible because it is. Like I'm scared for anyone that doesn't have Bitcoin in that situation. Do you think it's going to be that bad? We're going to have these currency collapses, or it just like slowly gets worse, or maybe it's as bad as it's going to be and then fiat's going to get better for a while? Or like, what do you see playing out?
There's a couple of thoughts that I have on how bad it could go and why certain things happened over the last 5 years. But just on the how people are going to survive, I was overhearing a conversation two gentlemen were having, and they were miners of age, just coal miners, and wish the government would look out for miners, not just miners on an island somewhere. And what he said he was on about 160 grand a year. His missus on 115 grand. He might have said 150. Yeah. About 150, 140, whatever it was.
So like
well over 100. Yeah.
Combined.
Well over 100 grand he was on, and she was only just over 100 grand.
Yeah.
And he was telling this other guy, he goes, "Oh man, I'm on like 150 grand. I'm missus on like 115 grand, and we're struggling to buy a house." And I was like walking in front of him. I'm listening to him. Going, fucking Jesus. People who have had Bitcoin have made their income or tripled or more in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
From even if you just had started stacking early, and And I'm listening to these people. I'm having a little bit of a laugh, but I'm also, heartbroken for these guys that they're in this situation, because you look at that, pretty much cut those wages in half, and that's what they're taking home. Then they've got food, which they can't pay for. They got fuel they can't pay for. They got rates, or they got rent. They got all these other bills that you're having to put all that money to, and then they're trying to save money. And I see, what are they going to do? Just put it into their savings account, and that savings account's just losing 7% of its purchasing power every year.
Yeah,
probably 2% because maybe they're getting 5%, so they're probably only losing 2% of their purchasing power. But they're running on a treadmill and not going anywhere.
Yeah,
and those guys on crazy incomes. Let alone a bartender. When I was a bartender making 50 grand a year or 40 grand a year or whatever I was on, how are those guys going to ever do anything?
Yeah.
The only way that you can get out of that rat race, there's probably other ways, but the only way that I've found out to do it is through Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I used to be in that rat race. I used to have like a third of what he made in a year. That was what my income was.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting here with a crazy net worth just from buying Bitcoin at the lows, because I was so convicted about it. And I was like, I didn't have any friends in Bitcoin either.
Yeah.
I took a massive dive in. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to go all in. And I was like, oh, if it fucks up, I'll just have to reset. No big deal, because I didn't have that much money anyway.
Yeah.
But since I've done that, like it's crazy, dude. I'm out of, I have no worries anymore.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Like you're saying, like you're buying at the lows and like the lows of the cycle, and yes, you were, but you're also buying at the highs. Like you're still buying now, and as well. And I think that's probably something important to be able to bring in for like anyone new to the space. Like when I first heard about Bitcoin as $96, and you know what happened with that Bitcoin, where that cash went.
Still got it.
Yeah, I wish, if only. To be able to buy Bitcoin, it went up in smoke, unfortunately. But like, it is what it is. And all of us literally have seen Bitcoin at a cheaper price than what it is today. And within Bitcoin, they say like, Bitcoin's not an IQ test, it's an ego test. We need to be able to get out of the way. One Bitcoin at 103,000, like $165,000 thereabouts, AUD, seems pretty like unachievable, or it seems like they've missed the boat or whatever. But what I've noticed with anyone that's been here and they've put in 100 hours or 1,000 hours, or like, or multiple thousands hours, 10,000 hours, the more time they've put into it, the more that they're buying at these higher prices. And like a good example, as Michael Saylor said, if Bitcoin's $1 billion, I'll be buying $1 billion a day worth of Bitcoin. I guess what would you say to people that are coming into the space and like, no, I've missed the boat. Maybe I need to buy Doge or some other fucking shitcoin, Trump coin, Melania coin, or whatever it is. Soon we're going to have, I'm sure there's already an Elon coin, Vivek coin. They're all going to start coming out, and they're going to be cheap. They're going to have a very low market cap. They're going to have unlimited supply, so people can just get as much as they want, and they may get more, depending on how it's set up. But like, what are your thoughts in regards to Bitcoin?
The unit bias sucks, dude. It sucks because I've got friends that are like, "What do you think about Doge? What do you think about XRP? What do you think about?" I'm like, dude, you can gamble.
Yeah.
You can make money on it. You can, but it's gambling. It's like going to the casino and putting your money on red. It's the same thing. If they want to do that, but make sure you have way more Bitcoin, like 90% of Bitcoin or 91%. Yeah. That way you can use 9% for shitcoining if you want to.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're going to have that shitcoin, and you might have a couple of lucky strikes, but I highly doubt it. But you might.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can work out how much that would be worth in terms of whatever, and enter in fiat here, whatever fiat you use on the shitcoins, how much, if you had just stuck it in Bitcoin, what would be the difference?
Yeah.
So it's hard to say that, but it hurts when people are like, oh yeah, but I can't afford one Bitcoin. You could have if you had bought it when I fucking told you.
Yeah.
You'd be a lot closer to one Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to how many Satoshis do you have?
Yeah.
Not so many not so much how much Bitcoin do you have, how many Satoshis do you have, how many Bitcoins.
Yeah.
They're trying to get that started. It's gambling, dude. It's gambling. And people are going to gamble.
Yeah, I've come to that realization as well. Like when I first really started talking to every single person that I interacted with about Bitcoin, and then they'd bring up, oh, what about these other things? And I'm like, don't gamble. This is about saving. This is about protecting yourself. It's not even an investment. It's just saving and better money. That's the way that I see it now. And I'd be like real ruthless. You're like, you're an idiot for wanting to gamble and stuff. But I realized like that's human nature. That's how I came into space through shitcoins. And it wasn't because I had a gambling mentality. I had a mentality where I wanted to get out of the fucking rat race, out of the matrix. And then like went into it. And yes, like you can make fiat gain. You can make currency in there, or you can make gains and it can outrun Bitcoin. But the amount of like time and energy to go deep down on there, I was like spending like 8 to 12 to 14 hours some day and all the discords and shit like that. And yes, like I had more wins than losses, but the amount of energy and life that took away, where I would have just been better to continue to upgrade my life, upgrade who I am as a person, learn more skills, to be able to provide more value, to be able to earn more fiat, or to be able to provide a service to earn Bitcoin or whatever. And like, you know, what we're doing with the training company and stuff, you know, we bring currency in and then turn that into real money. And that's creating like real change. And it would have been better to start on that earlier and quicker. But like, if people want to gamble, they can fucking gamble. I don't care. Really, like, I just hope for the best for people. And I know for like the majority of people, they are just better to work on themselves and not look to get rich quick in whatever way, and to be able to upgrade who they are so that the world wants to pay them for their service, for the value, their unique value that they bring to the world. And I think by aligning with Bitcoin and truth, honest money, it can really like accelerate that. But yeah, like the unit bias is super hard to get around. And I wonder if we get to a point like the Bloomberg terminal shows Bitcoin at 0.1 M as now, which is pretty interesting, which is broadcast out to sort of the financial elite players out there. So they're starting to change it. But for the everyday person, like mainstream news and stuff is showing the price like this. We're showing the price like this is one Bitcoin because of like where it was 16 years ago. It was worth absolutely nothing. 16 years later, it's $103,000 US, like, which is absolutely insane. Do you reckon we get to a place with that, and how do we get there where we're changing the unit bias, or is it just education through like peer-to-peer conversations where we've been like, yes, like it's so expensive, you're fucked up, you should have got one, like you've known about it sometime before now, you've heard about it in the last 16 years, your ego or you're too busy or whatever was in the way, or there's a mental block, or it's just so early and you didn't trust and you didn't think it'd be around then, so you gave it a pass at this stage, but you're paying attention now, and now one Bitcoin's this price, you're probably not going to be able to get one, like the majority of people just aren't. Then you're like, hey, but you can buy 0.1, or you can buy 10,000 Satoshis, you can buy 1 million Satoshis. How do you think that plays out like that? Or?
Well, how many people have $100,000 in their bank?
Probably not many.
But how many people have a tenth of $100,000? You know, the unit bias, nobody has, not nobody, but
yeah.
How many people have $1 million in the bank? Well, if they don't have $1 million, but they're like, well, I can't, I might as well not even work for money because I don't have $1 million.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go and, you know, because they go to work, they make $800. They're like, oh, but it's not $1 million. So I might as well not even go to work for the $800.
Yeah.
It's a weird concept because yes, one Bitcoin is worth $100,000 or $165,000 in Aussie dollars. But people who are using, so take it away from actually having a coin or a Bitcoin, just look at it as a fiat term. People don't have $165,000 in fiat. Not everybody has it in their bank, but they'll have $1,600 and $50 in their bank, which means it's the same amount. It has the same value. So I don't know how people are how to get people around that at all. But the whole upgrading your life to create more value, it's funny you say that, because I hadn't started. I was a bartender when we first started talking.
Yeah.
Now I'm a minor of age, and I did that just because I fucked up in 2023, and I spent way too much money spent on Bitcoin to get out of trouble. But then I was like, how do I accumulate that back? I needed to upgrade my skills.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then it was just all into Bitcoin, everything. And now that's been the fucking best payoff ever. It's better than the stocks I was playing with, better than anything else that I've sort of played with. For not only like as a net worth style, but as a mental as a mental stimulant as well. It's not only changed my life in terms of being able to do more things, but the way that I think. And I think that is because the Bitcoin community talk about health, talk about, education, talk about living beyond your means so you can achieve it. Like that's always been the way to do things. If you ever want to save up money, put 10% away, 10% of your wage away. But you put 10% of your wage away, you're losing, because they just keep inflating the money supply because there's no rules. And there is, but they're not for you. Rules for thee, not for me.
Yeah. So
this whole aspect of unit bias, just convert it straight to fiat dollars. You don't have $1 million. Why would you even? If you don't have $1 million, you might as well not even have $1.
Yeah,
it's stupid to think of like that, but people will think like that because it's just how we are, I suppose. I don't know, man. Bitcoin's such a weird invention, and it's come so far in 16 years. I heard about it in 2012 when it was like $14.
Yeah,
and I had to spare 10 grand, which just went nowhere.
Yeah,
and I was like,
finally, all of us.
Yeah, 2015, I almost used it to transfer money from Canada to Australia. I actually looked into it, watched a TED Talk, and then the way that the TED Talk was run up was all about the miners, and you need so much energy, and it being in Iceland, and you need to have it all cool. And I was like, this is too complicated. When all I had to do was just buy an Quadrina X before it went bust. And then 2017, when that was all happening, I was in Canada again, and all these Bitcoin ATMs were popping up, and that hurt so bad because I was making money there just as a waiter or bartender. And I was like, how do I take this money? I took $1,700 Canadian dollars. How do I get that back to Australia to cover my bills in Australia? I took it back as cash.
Oh no!
Yeah, and then fuck all cash anyway. But then I got here and I was like, how do I convert this Canadian dollars to Australian dollars and get the best rate?
Yeah.
So I used an exchange that said they didn't charge any fees, but I didn't realize about the spread, did I? So I probably got like $1,500.
Yeah.
Stupid. I used PayPal in 2015 instead of using Bitcoin to transfer money from Australia to Canada or Canada to Australia. It was stupid. So stupid.
Yeah, it is. Like it's hard. There's never been like a technology ever like Bitcoin. So unless
I like what you said about the ego thing. It's not an IQ test; it's an ego test.
I'm not sure who to credit that to, but one of the great minds within Bitcoin, definitely not me. Strong proponent of reading the books, not to eat the bugs, but switching gears a little bit, or more so like you're working as a bartender, you realise that you needed to be able to earn more fiat, so you went out, you learned some skills to be able to work out the mines, to be able to get more fiat dollars, to be able to stack more Bitcoin. And then for some people, and like within, say, like the fiat economy, they're like, all right, I'm getting a pretty good wage. I got the skills to be able to do that. And then they just do the same thing day in, day out for like the next 15, 20, 30 years. I'm sure there's plenty of miners that are out there. I'm sure they've got nice cars, nice toys, everything like that.
The ones that aren't divorced.
that aren't divorced and or soon to be divorced. It's not a very good statistically for mental health, for relationships, things like that. Unfortunately, because there's a great opportunity to earn a really decent wage out of it. But what I've noticed with you is, yes, like you learnt those skills, but then you've gone off to develop other skills to be able to do stuff. And I think we'll save that for another conversation. But what you're building as like a technology platform and a networking type experience in such a unique, specific field that will really change the connection between like certain cohorts of people. Like, I think that's really admirable. And I've noticed that a lot within Bitcoiners is they're always seeking more or better.
Yeah. And
like, well done.
well, it's not built yet. And what the fiat mind is allowing me to do is fund that without having to sell my Bitcoin, because that would kill me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if I do need to sell the Bitcoin to fund that, I think that has it will have more of a positive effect on humanity. So I think it would be more important, as important as Bitcoin is, I think that would be more important to get that up and running. And hopefully it doesn't have to come to that. Hopefully I can swing it where I'll just keep working and selling my body to pay for it.
Selling your soul.
Yeah, selling my soul.
Yeah.
Digging big holes.
Yeah.
And but at the end of the day, that is the big focus, because I think that is going to solve some crazy issues
I think it will as well.
that humanity might have. But time to tell on that one. You're right there, getting on camera, hey?
We'll save that. But Rory, it's been a pleasure. I need to jump into 4 weeks worth of emails, which is going to be very joyful. But mate, thanks so much for who you are. It's been really awesome. And I think like the biggest takeaway is Rory did reach out to me on X and has come on. He's helped co-host the show, and we've spent time at conferences and hanging out. And then to be able to look after the most precious creatures in the world for my wife and I and our house, and to be able to look after the birds and the fish, and to be able to do that. Hopefully we've still got fish. It's really amazing. And like knowing who you are and the journey and the time you've put in and the connection, it's been really cool. And like I had an experience with a no longer business partner, and one of the rules that I wrote down is like I'm only ever going to go into a business with people that are Bitcoiners, and maybe not necessarily they already own Bitcoin, but that mentality. And I think that says a lot. So like I just appreciate who you are, and for you to be such like an intriguing person. Like you've enriched my life so much from reaching out randomly on X, being like, hey, you want to connect, bro? Like, yeah, fucking sure. Like, don't know you, you don't know me, but it's been fucking awesome, man. It's been really, really, really cool.
Yeah, it's been good, man. And that first call, you're like, hey, you want to come on for a podcast? And I was like, maybe. The first phone call, I was like, let me get back to you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be on camera or anything, but it's been a good time. Unfortunately, we can't do it too often because my schedule's all over the place.
Yeah.
With everything, but man, when we're face to face, we're not looking at each other on a screen anymore.
It's crazy. It's
So
cool.
it's so surreal, man. And mate, hearing your story and knowing where you've come from it's crazy, dude. It's crazy to see what you've achieved and what you've built and what you're moving towards from because I know where you came from, and it's like to see you come back from that is crazy, dude. And I don't know if it's all down to Bitcoin, but I think that had a really big component in it. Yeah. And I've had friends that didn't make it out of that.
Yeah.
So it's good to see people that can get out of it, and that's what Bitcoin's done. And it's done for you, and it's unbelievable. And it's so surreal just hanging out, catching up. You're like, mate, from that first day when I was watching you on YouTube, just like trying to find a community because I didn't have any friends in Bitcoin. I think you're my first friend in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
There was a Bitcoiner. I got shitcoiner friends.
Yeah.
But I don't have any Bitcoiner friends.
Yeah.
There.
Same here, which is really, really cool.
That was the other thing. Bitcoin Alive. I couldn't believe that was your first
Conference.
first time you hang out with Bitcoiners. Because this is why you started this channel. So you could,
so I could spend time with Bitcoiners and just get out of that fiat conversations,
which is so draining.
Oh man,
it's brutal. You try. I can't have a conversation.
Well, that's why I admire you with your networking, and like I tried that a lot, but it's not a very big town here, so I like have the same conversations over and over, and I was just like, oh, how's the game? I'm like, fuck, I'm not interested in the game. The world is burning down. Like, fucking, you need to be paying attention to this. No, it's too expensive. Like, fuck.
Did you know this he's doing that?
Yeah, like I don't. I just
much money
care for those conversations. But yeah, it's been a journey. And the only thing I'd say about my journey, I don't think I'm coming back anywhere. I think I'm just still trying to run away from that. Like what my life was, as a kid and a young adult and stuff. And whether that's healthy or not, I'm trying to do it in a way that's holistic and very centered. And Bitcoin, like I was already on that path, but Bitcoin was the accelerant because when, like the foundation of our lives, which is our health and then our wealth, and our relationships, so health, relationships and wealth. But if what we're basing our wealth on is poisonous, it's toxic, it's distorted, it taints everything else, and it's not really allowing us, this is my belief, to build a solid foundation. So once I found Bitcoin, I was already trying to like upgrade myself and become better, and just change everything about myself and like I guess the toxic sludge that I picked up over the years and through my lifetime. But then I found Bitcoin and it's just like, oh, like this is a solid foundation that I can actually build on. And then it's just accelerated more and more. And, it does help that Bitcoin's some go up technology, but, like it dropping down from 108 to 109, I'm like, yes, like I prefer the red days, but then it's gone green and it's even cheaper than when it was red earlier. It was 103,000 the same as down the last 24 hours. I prefer the red days, even if it's a higher price. Like I've just sort of like zoned in on that. But I think we're getting to a point now where it's just going to accelerate more and more and more. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen overnight. Like up, down, or sideways short term, it's just zoom out and just focus on becoming the best that we can be. At least that's me. But man, it's been absolute pleasure, brother. And thanks so much for looking after the dogs, eating all the steak. And Rory's like, I asked Rory, what do you want to eat? Steak and what else? He's like, yeah, steak and fruit. Like, sweet, go to the butcher's and get it there. And then, like, is there any steak left? He's like, no, I need to go to the butcher's. I'm like, fuck, make sure you do. We need steak for dinner. But it's been cool, man. Real cool.
Yeah, what do you need? Mate, as long as there's steak in the fridge, I'll be fine.
Steak and tallow. Anyway, that's us. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. And
if we vibe.
And please, like, read the books. Bitcoin is still cheap, but you need to hold it for a long time and you need to do your own research. It's not going to be handed to you. Peace.